it's time for our December recipe for Baker's Gonna Bake, and we are making the most delicious, soft, and fluffy cinnamon rolls. I'm going to give you some options for tweaking the recipe to your liking, but the basic dough recipe is so phenomenal, and it's very easy. If you're intimidated by yeast, don't be intimidated. This recipe has a lot of parts and pieces, but it comes together beautifully. The nice thing about this recipe is, have you ever made cinnamon rolls at home and they taste super delicious right out of the oven, but then like 3 hours later they're hard as a rock? I've had that problem before, and this recipe actually uses a method. It's an Asian style method of making a starter first, and it's called a tangzhong. I know that word sounds kind of crazy, but it's just a little process we do at the beginning of cooking some flour with some milk and water into kind of a thick little paste, and then we add that to the dough. And that helps to keep your cinnamon rolls nice and soft as they rest in the day or two after you make them. And then your other ingredients are pretty basic. We've got flour, and we're actually using a bread flour here, which has a higher protein content. If you only have all-purpose flour, it works just fine. I've used it before. You might have to add a touch more to your recipe. So we've got flour, yeast, salt, water, milk, butter, eggs, and some dry milk powder. So I'm going to get started first on the tangzhong, so that can kind of cook for a bit while I get the rest of my dough put together. So our tangzhong has 3 ingredients: water, milk, and a little bit of flour. So we've got 5 tablespoons of water, and a trick for water, or for any measuring anything, 4 tablespoons is equal to a 1/4 cup. So rather than pour out 5 separate tablespoons, I'm going to do a 1/4 cup and then 1 tablespoon. And I will share a little secret. This is the exact recipe for cinnamon rolls we use in the shop. It is obviously scaled down to be a little different size for you, but it is that good. And I can't believe I'm actually sharing one of our recipes, but it's a little more on the challenging side, so I don't think it will take too much business away from us. And then another 5 tablespoons of milk. So for that, I'm also doing a 1/4 cup plus 1 tablespoon. And then flour, we need 3 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon. So I've got my bread flour right in this bowl. And if you've ever made a roux or anything before, when you mix flour and liquid together, well, a roux would be with butter. And we're cooking over the stove, the flour acts as a thickener. So I'm going to show you this here. It's all kind of clumpy-like. And we're going to whisk that together and come bring it to the stove and cook it on medium heat. All right, so for our dough, while our tangzhong is cooking, we're going to put all our ingredients in a bowl together. No rhyme or reason to this. For the order, so I have 4 cups plus 2 tablespoons of the same bread flour. And this is actually a 2-cup measure, so I'm just going to do this twice because that'll be 4. And then 2 tablespoons. Now I'm putting this directly into my mixer bowl, which hooks onto my KitchenAid. That way, when it's time to knead it, I can just use the dough hook and let it go. Now, if you don't have a KitchenAid mixer, that is totally fine. You can absolutely knead this by hand. It's just a little more work. I prefer to use the dough hook because I am lazy. So we've got our flour, and then we're going to use our dry milk powder right here, and this just adds a nice moisture to the mold. We need a 1/4 cup. I've never tried not putting this in. I've read some reviews that say they didn't have an issue with not putting this in, but I would recommend to use it. And then we need our salt, 1 3/4 of a teaspoon. Sorry for all the chaos in here. It is the month of December, which means it's a little busy, so we've got a lot going on. So 1 3/4 of a teaspoon. And then we want to do our yeast. Okay, we're using an instant yeast here because it is much easier to work with than regular active dry yeast. You don't have to let it proof in its own little bowl first. You just add the yeast directly to your recipe. So we have 1 tablespoon of instant yeast. That would be a little bit more than a packet. 1 packet has 2 1/4 teaspoons. So if you are using the packets, you need to make sure to measure it out. And then we're going to add 3/4 cup of lukewarm milk. So I just pop it in the microwave about 30 seconds. And then 6 tablespoons of melted butter. That's what makes this dough so rich. And then we have 2 eggs. As you can see, there's no sugar actually in the dough. We're going to get most of our sweetness from the filling and the frosting. The sugar also in dough is what can sometimes make it get hard after it's done baking. So I'm just going to let this sit here and check on my tangzhong. Alright, so I'm adding my tangzhong to the bowl with the rest of my ingredients. Sometimes I think it's fun just to say the word tangzhong. And then what I'm going to do here, see everything's in here? I'm just gonna give this a nice stir with my spatula, okay? And then we're gonna let this rest for 20 minutes before we knead it. By letting it rest, it's gonna let the gluten relax, so that way it can, it'll turn out better. I don't really know the science behind that, I'm not that smart. But I just wanna stir it all up so everything's mixed, and it might look kind of shaggy and clumpy. That's okay. It'll all come together better once it kneads. Okay, that's what we got. I'm gonna give it 20 minutes and then we'll knead it. All right, so our dough has rested for 20 minutes and we're going to knead it. This is my beautiful dough hook. You may have one for your KitchenAid. If you don't have a dough hook, you can knead it by hand. I'll let you Google that if you want to do it that way. But I'm just going to put this on my mixer with the dough hook. I'm going to get all this excess off the spatula and let it knead for 5 to 7 minutes. I usually go the whole 7, but 5 is probably good. You just want to make sure it's on low. All right, and now we wait. All right, we're ready to roll out and slice up our cinnamon rolls. The dough has risen for 60 to 90 minutes, and actually I put it in the fridge overnight. We didn't have time to do this whole video in one shoot. So our dough is nice and risen and ready to go. So we're gonna turn it out onto a floured surface. So you just wanna sprinkle some flour on whatever table you're working on. That way your dough does not stick to your table. This recipe should make anywhere from 12 to 24 cinnamon rolls. It really depends how big you want them. I personally like a bigger cinnamon roll because I just like to eat big cinnamon rolls. But if you want to make smaller ones, say you're making like a brunch, whatever, then make it smaller. And it'll just really depend how much you cut them, how many pieces you cut them into. I think 12 to 18 is probably a really good amount. The 24 would be kind of small. But you just want to roll your dough out to a large rectangle, and you want to try to keep it as even or as square as possible, or else it's going to be hard to keep your cinnamon rolls evenly sized. You want it to be probably about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch thick. We roll them pretty thin here, but obviously you can do it however you want. The thicker you leave your dough, the less like swirls your cinnamon roll will have. And I will tell you, like at the bakery, we make a lot of cinnamon rolls for the holidays. I'm not the best cinnamon roll maker we have here. A lot of our employees are much better than me. They're beautiful works of art, where mine are just kind of like, oh, glad we're putting frosting on that so nobody sees it. The main thing is you just want your dough to be an even thickness all the way across. So now we're going to mix up our filling. So I have a base filling recipe for you, but this is where you can switch it up, make things your own. We're starting with 6 tablespoons of butter, melted, and then I have a cup of brown sugar. And then I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of cinnamon. And that might seem kind of like a lot, but that is what makes these rolls. Now here's where you can switch it up. One of my favorite ways to do these is to do like the zest of an orange mixed up in here. That is so good. And then do some sort of orange frosting. You could add some dried cranberries. You could add mini chocolate chips, chopped pecans, anything like that. Lemon might be kind of weird. I don't know. I've never had lemon and cinnamon together. But you could even add some more spices. If you wanted to go more warm spices, like a ginger, you could add, or cardamom, or cloves, or allspice, nutmeg. That would be good. But I'm just going to mix my melted butter up with the sugar and the cinnamon until it's pretty homogeneous. And then what I'm going to do is just plop that right on my dough and spread it out. Now here's where if you were going to be adding any chunky ingredients, you would just sprinkle them over the top. So that would be your chopped pecans or mini chocolate chips, or if you had some of those like cinnamon chips might be good. Or there's one more thing. Oh, a finely diced apple would be super yummy, I think. Be like an apple cinnamon roll. I've seen people do peaches. We're not really in the season for peaches, but that would be yummy too. And so you're just going to smear this all around, like so. And then comes the fun part, the rolling. So starting at the side opposite you, you just want to roll it up towards you, just pretty much as tight as you can. I mean, you don't have to pull it to make it tight, but just roll it up towards you. Then you've got this nice long snake. And I'm going to dust some of that extra flour away so it doesn't make them dry. And then take my knife, I'm just going to cut off the ends. Now if you're really anxious to get, exactly 12, then you would want to, cut in half, and so on. If you don't really care how many you get and you just want them all to be a certain height, you can just go down the way. So it's really up to you. I think I'm going to try to get 15, so can't really split 15 in half, but I can do thirds and then do each of those into 5. Except that wasn't really even thirds, was it? No, but that's okay. And then you're just going to cut them. My dough is super easy to work with because it was chilled. So if you're nervous about the dough being hard to work with, let it rise overnight. That way, in the fridge, that way it is easier to work with. But look at these beauties right here. How gorgeous is that? And then I'm just going to put them in my pan. I'm going to do 3 in a little row. And some of them might end up being a little smaller than others. It's not the end of the world. Pan looks like. And we are going to cover these and let them rise another hour before we bake them. Or you could cover them and let them rise in the fridge overnight to bake off the following morning, just in time for Christmas. Alright, so our cinnamon after letting our cinnamon rolls rise for about an hour, I went ahead and put them in the oven at 350 for, it was about 17 minutes, but it could take longer depending on your oven. I would say anywhere from 15 to 25, probably closer to 25 because I did bake these in our convection, commercial oven here. You see, they do not get a lot of brown color to them. That is okay. They will still be done. You just want to make sure they're set all the way through. Don't those look gorgeous? This one got a little excited there. So now we're just going to frost them. I did include a basic frosting recipe for you, but you can just use your favorite buttercream frosting from a can, I won't tell. But my personal favorite is cream cheese frosting, so that's what I'm going to use. And this is just our cream cheese cupcake frosting. So I'm just going to smear it all over them. I like to do this while they're still warm, because then it kind of melts right in. Now, we talked about all the variations in the rolls. My favorite, like I said, was the orange. What I would do is make up a quick maybe glaze or frosting similar to this, but add like orange zest or use orange juice as the liquid instead of the milk. A maple, I'm always on a maple cake. Maple cream cheese would be really good on these. Caramel would be really good. Of course, classic vanilla buttercream, that's my husband's favorite. So he will probably not be too happy when I bring these home. I mean, how could he be not happy? They're warm cinnamon rolls, but he'll prefer the vanilla buttercream. Depending on how much frosting you like, that's how much you can use. We're not huge frosting people, so I just do enough to kind of cover the top. And it just melts right in there and gets so gooey and delicious. Now, say you did put pecans or something in these, and you want to garnish it so they know like there's nuts in these, you could sprinkle some chopped pecans over the top, or chocolate chips, or whatever it is that you put in there. And as always, if you have extra frosting, I serve it alongside the rolls, because some people do really like frosting and they can add more, when they're eating them to fill it how they like to eat them. So here we go. There's our soft and fluffy cinnamon rolls. We hope you enjoy baking this recipe, and as always, prepare your recipe, post a picture in our Facebook group. Everybody who posts their picture gets entered to win a $50 gift card. Already a lot of people have made these even without the video, so I think that's awesome, and they look so delicious, and this is the perfect, Christmas morning breakfast for the holidays. Thanks for tuning in.